Welcome to the Be Happy Now show. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. I'm Claudia-Sam. If you know that you're here for a bigger reason, this is the place to be. Together, we ditch the self-care guilt and quit the go, go, go with less fear and more trust. Tune in to living life in alignment with your full potential. The Be Happy Now show starts now.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Be Happy Now show. I'm Lisa, part of Claudia-Sam's team. This episode originally aired on July 17th, 2022, and is packed with insights to help you reconnect with your soul self. Claudia-Sam explores the significance of crafting a self-care checklist that's specific to your needs. As you listen, you'll learn how to create a checklist that genuinely aligns with who you are and what nurtures you most. And if you're looking to deepen your self-care practice, Claudia-Sam has a special gift for you, her top 50 ways to practice self-care resource, which you can find a link to in the show notes. Self-care is also an important aspect of getting back on track with yourself. So stay tuned and enjoy.
Hi, welcome to the Be Happy Now show. I'm your host, Claudia-Sam, and this episode is all about you creating your self-care routine checklist. And if you're usually on the go and you're busy and you like to stay on track to reaching your goals, I totally get how you would want a checklist. I used to be the queen of the to-do lists, and I would highlight everything that was a priority, and I would create even like little check boxes and stars, and I would have my own system of what feels like I'm moving forward and on track. So is that you? Do you feel like you also love to have those lists and that direction? If so, then you're at the right place. Okay. It actually tames the mind and the ego to just know what to do and to have that direction and, have a step-by-step list so that we can follow it and well, have a sense of direction and know where we're going. And part of what I coach my clients through in the Tune In program is that there is a component that tames the ego and that shows the direction. The clue here is that it's your direction. You get to tune into what your direction is to the goal that you want, whether it's having more self-confidence, feeling more worthy within yourself, feeling like you're on track in your self-care, like you're prioritizing yourself. And so if you're here right now, chances are you're not feeling on track, right? And whatever you've tried up until now hasn't worked. It hasn't worked the best yet. And I totally get that. So what we are going to do today is build your own checklist. So I'm getting that you're here because you want to have a self-care routine that looks a specific way. And instead of following mine, because you are unique and you get to have your own self-care checklist, I don't want you to follow mine because it might not feel in alignment for you. So I'm going to talk to you today about what happens when we have a checklist so that maybe you can change your mindset around what putting yourself first is, about what having a self-care kind of morning routine or checklist. How can that look like and how can that be different for you? So first, I want to tell you about what happens when we have a checklist. Here's what happens when we have a checklist. We follow only what's on the list, right? We follow what's on the list. We feel bad when we don't do something that's on the list. Like I wrote it down. Why didn't I do it? So we guilt ourselves in feeling behind as well. When we have a checklist, what also happens is that we end up with headaches. We end up with migraines, with jaw clenching, with tightness in the stomach, with anxiety and stress because of the pressure to perform. It's like when there's a list, it's right there in our face. And it's almost like we are putting that pressure on ourselves to not deviate from it. Does that resonate with you? Not only does it build anxiety, it can also have a sense of commitment. I like to have lists. Sometimes I'll have periods of times when I love to have lists and it keeps me on track because I have so much in my head, so much creativity, so many things that I want to and get to do that I put them on paper until that project is done. Then I don't need the list anymore. But before then, when I used to work in media, I remember having to-do lists, like they were never ending. And one time my boss came to my door and said, it was, I think like 6:30 in the evening. And he said, "So what are you still doing here?" well, my to-do list, it's so long, I can't leave. And he said, well, Claudia-Sam, your to-do list is going to be there tomorrow. Uh-huh. So he forced me out of the office. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. When we have a checklist, we also end up right where we were, feeling overwhelmed and putting so much pressure on ourselves to do it right and to do more. Do you ever really complete the to-do list? Or does it feel like we just keep adding to it? Sometimes that's what it is. So I want to bust the myth that we need a checklist. I know you came on this show on this episode and you're like, I want to create my self-care routine checklist. And you will create it just in a different way, because I'm busting the myth that you need a checklist. Because what you really always have with you is your heart. It's your intuition. It's your inner compass, your inner guidance system, hence the tune in method that I teach and I coach my clients through, because you have that whole navigating system. The GPS is inside of you. And if I give you a checklist, I give you more to do, it's not going to be helpful for you if you have a habit or a work ethic of burnout and overworking and overdoing. A checklist is not going to do it. It's not going to help. Excuse me. It's not going to help you. Okay. It would be like adding another tool in the toolbox that comes from someone else and that doesn't work for you. I want you to know that by being here, your intuition is worthy. Who you are is enough. What you think feels good to you is perfect as it is, and it is worthy to be seen and to be listened to. Okay. So, I mean, come on. We've all done it, right? We've all tried something like, okay, I'm going to start running because running is good. Or, oh, I'm going to start doing yoga every day. Or I'm going to meditate every day for 5 minutes or whatever, right? We've all kind of set ourselves these goals that we wanted to try. It's like, again, adding a tool in the toolbox, and it works for a few days or a few hours. And then we're back to where we're started. Yeah. So today, not only are we busting a myth, we're doing it differently. I have to say that when I did my second yoga teacher training, I used to be very rigid with my structure for yoga. In the morning, I would do 3 hours of yoga. It was non-negotiable. For me, it was non-negotiable to be on my yoga mat for 3 hours. And there was a strict routine, even in the yoga practice. I would start with meditation and breathing techniques. Then I would go into the asanas and I would move my body a specific way with a specific order, starting with I think I was starting with forward folds and then with side stretches and then with back bends and then with, you get it. There was an order to which my yoga practice was even done in. And at some point, I realized that that rigidity was not supportive of me. It was just like adding something else on the to-do list, and it was no longer a self-care practice. So I'm going to give you my top 3 checklists if that's what you want to follow. The first thing is tuning into what feels good in the moment. And as not direct or as unconventional as that might be, as less tangible as that can sound, tuning into what feels good in the moment is perfect. So, for example, when you wake up in the morning, if you feel like, I don't have energy today to go and walk and do my workout routine. Okay, well, how do you want to feel? And in that moment, what would be best supportive for you? I have some days where I meditate laying down in my bed because that feels good for me. That's me anchoring back into my light, anchoring back into the present moment, using meditation as a tool. And I'm not forcing myself to go sit in front of my altar. Why? Why would I put that pressure on myself? So that's a kind of belief also, to think that, okay, well, meditation only has to be done a certain way. That would be a belief that you get to choose to entertain and believe it or not. So first thing is tuning into what feels good to you. Second thing is, first thing, tuning into what feels good to you. Second thing is, what am I really committed to? So I'm going to ask you that. What are you really committed to? So we can always think of self-care as many different categories. We can look at self-care for our body and move our body and lose weight and work out and have, good muscle memory and all of that. We can also think of self-care as being kind to ourselves, self-love, and choosing what to think, choosing our thoughts. We can also see self-care as spiritual connection. And so the second thing that I do as a checklist is, what am I committed to? And lately what I'm committed to is being anchored in my divine light, in my divine beingness of who I am, so that anything I take on, does that feel in alignment with my divine being, with who I am as a light being, as that soul? Does that feel in alignment with my soul? That's what I'm committed to. So number one on my checklist, which is not really a checklist, but I'm, in service to that ego need, is I'm tuning into what feels good in the moment. And by the way, I'm releasing judgment. That would be part of the first one. Okay. Tuning into what feels good in the moment and releasing judgment. The second part is, what did I say? The second part is, what am I committed to? So what am I committed to? Am I committed to feeling good in my body? Am I committed to being anchored with that divine light being who I am? What are you committed to? In other words, that could be, what is your intention? Yeah. What's your intention for self-care? Before you take any action, you get to re-anchor into that reason why you're doing it. And the number 3 checklist that I would add is one word, and it's trust. Trust that whatever your intuition and your soul and the moment wants for you is just perfect. Trust that you don't need to put that extra pressure. Trust that whatever you need direction with will come. Trust that you are worthy of self-care. Trust that you are worthy of prioritizing yourself, and that whether you choose to meditate for 5 minutes, go for a walk for 10, breathe for 3 breaths, all of that is worthy. And trust that it is enough for where you are. Instead of piling more on your to-do list and forcing yourself to do one thing at a time, forcing yourself to do just all of these things like you would take on work. If you take on your self-care practice as work with the same energy of pressure, you're just setting yourself up to be disappointed and let down by yourself. Does that make sense? So the 3 checklists I had for you they were: tune into what feels good for you in the moment. What are you committed to? And trust. Trust that what you choose, what you do, and who you are is enough. You've been listening to the Be Happy Now show with me, Claudia-Sam. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. You are worthy of being you and of connecting to what stops you from living the life you are meant to live. Access more soul connection coaching at ClaudiaSamCoaching.com.